Hi, this time I'm joined by my support crew in life as well as running, Annette. And I'll start off by getting Annette to give a brief introduction to herself, her running, her support.
So my name's Annette. I am his wife. I'm doing a PhD at the moment. In the past I have done some running. I have done an ultramarathon or two. I've done a few kind of smaller 10k races and things. I suppose I probably spent more time doing support. Like recently I haven't really done much. Over the years it's probably amounted to quite a lot.
The question that I get asked whenever we're talking about you to other runners is, does my wife run?
Yeah, and that's the question I get asked when I talk about Mike to other people as well. Do you run? Yeah, not really, no.
The answer that I gave is she has run, and she'd be the first person to understate what she's done. She's done D33, the Dirty 30, 2/3 of the Lickland 50, and
yeah, start Lickland.
I think the reasons you stopped weren't because it was too difficult, it was because you were bored rather than anything else.
Yeah, I think it was also because it was like 4 o'clock in the morning and there was nobody, there wasn't really anyone else about, so it was just me. I think if there was someone I was there with, I think I would be more likely to do it. And also the navigation was a little bit kind of tricky and kind of got to the point and got bored and that's enough. But yeah, I mean, when I've done them, I enjoy doing them. I just tend to, like, if I have to do a training run or something, I get bored more than anything. Running is one of the few things I enjoy doing as a social activity, which is kind of opposite to everything else.
I would have said that you like running races, you just don't like training for them. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I enjoy the atmosphere of races and I guess pushing myself and seeing like other people doing well. But yeah, the training, the idea of going out for several hours just doesn't really, which is a strange thing to say because I'm quite happily being by myself and entertaining myself, but when it comes to running, I don't know, I just get bored. It's like the opposite to anything else that I do.
And the main thing that I see you doing is support crew for myself, and you've done it for others. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the hardest bit for being with support crew is the lack of sleep. It's all through the night, and I think you have to. I just want to. I get really tetchy when I don't get my standard 8 hours sleep, but somehow you have to meet this person in the middle of nowhere at 3 o'clock in the morning and pretend everything is absolutely fine when you spent the last hour trying to find this random car park in the middle of nowhere and your GPS doesn't work because there's no satellite or anything, and you have to turn up and say, hey, how are you? Woo, keep going. And all you want to do is just curl up and go to sleep and not be there. But I think you kind of underestimate a little bit how valuable the support is, that kind of ability to pretend that everything is okay to the person you're trying to support. And I think the other part of support is just being kind of organized, and I'm quite organized is fine. So I think as long as you have a plan, as long as the runner, whoever you're supporting, has some kind of plan, I think that kind of really helps.
The thing that I always get told at the end is not the lack of sleep, because that's the obvious thing. It's the lack of facilities like toilets.
Oh yes, that just actually toilets is probably the biggest issue that I have. You're turning up in a field where normally there wouldn't be many people, so you could go and have a quick loo stop. But suddenly there's 20 other cars and vans who come with another 3 people in each one, and suddenly you're desperate for the loo, or that they'll have loos but they're only for runners, which is another thing. So sometimes you just have to be a bit sneaky and dive in.
Okay, I guess that's something for the race directors out there. Look after the support crew, not just the runners. because the runner need to look after the support crew as well, because they're doing their bit for the runners.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's, I mean, you go to some races and there's like 4 portaloos for runners, and there's nothing for the support crew, which is fine if you can disappear off for, you know, an hour or 2, whatever, but sometimes when you have a small child it's easier said than done, and trying to find the toilet and making sure you're back in time, and I mean, it's like a small thing, but it's actually,
that's something else that's added to the equation. In years gone by, you've supported me, you've been in the middle of nowhere at 3 o'clock in the morning on your own, but added to the complications now is we've got a 4-year-old that needs to be in the van, that can't be moved because she's asleep, but the van has to move to 10 miles, 15 miles to the next checkpoint.
Yeah, I don't think we've really done an overnight one since she's been born, have we?
No.
For that reason, really. Logistics wise, we haven't worked that one out yet.
Out of the running that you have done, or even running or support, what do you feel that's the biggest achievement that you've done?
Biggest achievement? I don't think I could put my finger on one thing, but I think it's like every race, but I think even shorter races, shorter races as well, long races, you kind of get to a point maybe about 2/3 of the way through when you kind of go beyond the point of personal, I mean, people call it like hitting the wall, but it's that point where you make the decision, you have to make almost like a conscious decision to say, I'm not going to stop, I'm just going to keep going. And I think like every race or piece of training you do, and I think that is probably the biggest achievement, is just every single time you have to push through that personal limitation, whatever that is, whether it's mental or physical, or you just have to keep going. So I think in that sense the achievement is keeping going rather than like, I mean, you might think, oh, completing your first, what was the first one, D33
then.
Finishing that was the achievement, but I don't think it was. It was more you just kept going beyond what you kind of thought you could do, and that's
pushing yourself beyond what you knew you were capable of.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you do that every time you train or you go out. You know, it's like your achievement is, well, I didn't get bored today, so achievement was I went out and got for a run. And I think that's as big a feeling of achievement for me as actually, completing it and saying, oh, I did this or I did that.
Mixing that with what I asked you about for the sort of support crew side of things, what's the most challenging, biggest achievement support crew wise that you've done?
I mean, the biggest ones are for me are for when you pick a run somewhere I've never been before. There's lots of weird places with lots of traffic. So like some of the ones you've done in England where the roads tend to be a lot busier down there. So there was one checkpoint that was, I can't remember which way, it was maybe like the Viking Way or something, and it was
coast to coast in Newcastle. Is that what you're thinking about?
I think it probably was that one, because that was just driving. That's a big achievement. But there was one particular checkpoint that I wasn't really sure where it was. Well, that goes for most, but it was kind of up this really steep road that was like, don't go this way, but I kind of had to go that way because I didn't know which other way to go. And they had no GPS, so I just kind of had to, there was no mobile signal or anything. I had to find this checkpoint where, to meet you, and I made it eventually. I found it just fine. It was my potluck more than anything. But I think the biggest achievement is being able to do that and just pretend everything's fine. Everything's fine.
I think anytime you've been supporting me, you've been there when I needed you every time, apart from once.
Yeah, once. I can't remember what happened then. I think I just messed up times, and then thinking, I'm sure he's supposed to be here by now. And then I realised that you just.
Which race are you thinking about?
I can't remember if it was the West Highland Way or whether it was.
The first time that I did the West Highland Way, you were with Vicky and Rona, and you'd all went for chips in the cafe at Glencoe. That was.
Oh, that was the one I was remembering. I was remembering a different one. It was Bridge of Orkney.
I can't
And
remember
you
that.
went to, I think you went to brush your teeth or something. I think I misjudged like how long it was going to take. Yeah, there was the cafe one as well. Yeah, okay, that was. We did kind of meet you, but I think we got a phone call saying, where are you? I'm like, oh, we're in the cafe having some food.
Yeah, for that one, I didn't use the energy to get annoyed at you guys for not being there. I told somebody else in the support crew to ask you to meet me at the bottom of the Devil's Staircase about 3 or 4 miles later.
Yeah.
And you did, so it was all good in the end. There was only a short period that
Yeah, I mean,
I had to do without.
we kind of felt guilty anyway, so you getting grumpy at us would have just kind of, I don't know, yeah, made it worse. Used your energy and made us feel even worse. Okay, so maybe there's 2 I've missed you. But actually, I'm quite impressed that we've managed to keep up the, like some of the ones, the longer ones down south.
Yeah,
Especially when, like the end of the, coast to coast, and I was driving through Newcastle and I was just like, just trying to get to this random place somewhere and traffic going everywhere, just following this little blue arrow on a map and hoping it's going to be
moving on. While
running is less stressful than driving.
tell us, have you faced any injuries while you were running?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the Dirty 30. I mean, I've never really had a proper injury, but one mistake I did, which I didn't realise until afterwards. Yeah, when I was doing the Dirty 30, my feet were really sore, about 20 miles in, and then I realised after the race I had forgotten to put the insoles in my shoe. Yeah, not the fancy ones that you had in, but no, just the standard insoles. So my feet were a bit sore after that one. But I think I'm quite lucky that I haven't.
How you have been running, or probably more relevant, during support, what kind of things do you have to eat?
I think that's 2 different things. When I'm supporting, I just eat. I just try not to eat too much of what you were supposed to be eating. I eat too much. When I used to run, like there was a few things I went through phases of really liking. So like the cheesy twists that you get from the the bakery department are kind of like pastry cheese things that you shouldn't probably eat. Although maybe okay when you're running. And actually one of the few things I do like when I'm running, which I absolutely despise at any other point in time, is like fizzy drink. I could drink them while I'm running, but any other time they're absolutely vile and disgusting and I wouldn't touch them.
I remember we both did a race around Loch Mick, and the race is about 7 miles, and 6 miles into it you've got to run into the water to the end of the boat pier and then down a pint of lager, or if you don't drink alcohol you've got to drink a fizzy drink. And can you remember what you said about that?
That was like the worst bit. I was like, I can't do this race because I don't want to have the fizzy drink. I was like, I will refuse to have the fizzy drink because I think the alternative was you had to go and wade out into Loch Mick or something.
Well, you had to do that and then come back and down the drink, or at least I did.
Oh, was that way? Okay. I remember just like I don't want to do that bit. I think I eventually was like, right, okay. I'd got to the point, you know when you get to the, again, kind of going back to that, you get to the point in the race where you're just like, I'm going to do this. I can't give up now. So I got this drink and drank it and I was like, oh, this is like the best thing ever.
I think you got to the end and said something like, this is the devil's juice, it made me go, or something like that.
Actually I'm trying to think, maybe I did get a burst of, I'd like drank, but it had caffeine in it. I was like, oh, that was actually like, I got a really good time at that one, and it's because I kind of zoomed up the hill afterwards.
While you're running, or again, supporting in the middle of nowhere, do you listen to music, podcasts, nothing at all?
I guess going back, I used to listen to music. I tend to listen to music rather than a podcast because actually I went through a phase of trying to listen to a book, but I just find them so slow and I got so frustrated with, why can't you kind of... Maybe it just wasn't an interesting book. I kind of find talking a little bit too slow. I don't know, like music's probably more what I listen to. I think when I'm supporting, I tend to do more reading and writing and things like that.
What about when you're driving between places? You're also not reading and writing then?
No, I suppose, yeah, probably music on.
Or is it just general radio noise?
Yeah, I think because I'm driving, it needs to be something I can't think about what I'm listening to. So if I'm listening to like a podcast or something, I tend to want to think about it or have an opinion about it or whatever. Whereas if you just put something kind of music or radio on, you don't really, you just kind of, in one ear out the other. But white noise.
When you do class yourself as a runner, what kind of distance would you want to cover? Your ideal race distance?
My ideal race distance.
Or just a general sort of run?
So I like a race that kind of takes a day. So the shorter races are a little bit too intense, I think. Like you can't kind of enjoy them. It's a fitness exercise, You're trying to do a time. But longer ones, you can kind of enjoy the scenery a bit more. You can do a bit of walking, you can take a picture, and that's kind of it's more of an event rather than it's a day out sort of thing. Yeah, you just enjoy the fresh air and the exercise and the achievement rather than I must get the best time or push myself until I can't breathe anymore.
Given your answer to that one, the next question, I think I'd already know the answer. Treadmill running, yes or no?
Well, yeah, again, that's like just have this idea, you're kind of watching Netflix or listening to something. I think you can maybe just try doing treadmill and listen to a podcast because the treadmill bit's really boring, but the podcast's interesting. So, but yeah, I'd rather go for a walk outside in the fresh air, to be honest.
Thinking about either supporting or racing, do you get nervous?
I think with going back to the kind of finding checkpoints in random places in the middle of nowhere or in busy places, I think that makes me nervous. I guess I get a little bit nervous because I might miss you. But then I'm also nervous because I have to drive. So, do I get nervous before an event? I don't think so, because at that point you can't really do anything about what's going to happen. You've either done what you need to do or you haven't done what you need to do. So I think it's just I think it's like excitement. Like even if it was something that you couldn't even comprehend finishing, you'd still anything that you do is an achievement. You're there, putting one foot in front of the other. So. Nervous? I don't think so. I think I'm probably excited or why am I here? What am I doing? Rather than nervous.
Thinking about, you're saying I've done races down in England, you've done various places in Scotland. Is there anywhere in the world that you would want to, not necessarily race, but just go to run or just go to explore?
Yeah, I think explore is a good word. So it's just like, where are we going on holiday this year? No. Where would I like to go explore? I think so. I kind of think about it in terms of mountainous and flat because I like exploring flat places because it's so it's like less exertion. So in that sense, I think some of the kind of the longer trails in America would really be really nice. And then some of the ones, they're kind of like the old like religious routes and stuff that people would take, pilgrimage type routes. So I think kind of those would be really interesting to do, partially because they're set up with hostels and things along the way. But then at the same time, I think if you're thinking about exploring, then going somewhere like New Zealand or kind of the fjords of Norway, I think.
Doing the West Island Way with one of your friends that you promised you were going to do 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, we still haven't done that. Yeah, I think just taking a nice, relaxed walk with a friend along West Island Way, I think would be.
Right, it's a bit of a dreich day outside. We're sitting in front of the fire. It is absolutely roasting here. So I think we'll call it a wrap there. So thank you, Annette.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And we'll see you next time.